Hi guys, in this example we are going to explain about Redux Persist. So basically Redux Persist is a library which will persist our reducer. So we are going to explain about Redux Persist and its usage. So for that one, what we are going to do, we are going to create a project which this much libraries. We are going to use React Redux, Redux Persist and React Navigation, Firebase authentication, Redux Toolkit. So this will be an authentication system. After authentication, we are going to persist our the value which we have stored on the Redux. Okay. Now we can jump into the example. Created a project using the command npx react native init redux persist. So this will create a React Native project in your desktop. Then after that one, just build the project using the command npx react native run Android. If you do not have a setup for React Native, you can just check out my previous videos. I have explained very detailed how to set up a React Native project. Now what I am going to do, so in this example I am going to create one folder src. So inside src, what I am going to do, I am going to create one screen, login screen, or we can just create two folder, new folder auth. So where we will be managing all our authentication, and then here also one more folder home. Okay, so inside auth I am going to create new file login screen, and then we can have a register screen .js. Clear? Now home file we can just have a home screen .js. Now inside this login screen I am going to create a functional component. We can just import React from React, then import view from React Native. We can just create const login screen. Fine. Then we can just export this one, export default login screen. Here what I am going to do, I am going to render a view, just return view style flex equal to 1, background color red. Then I am just closing this one. After that one, just copy this into register screen as well. We can just change the name register screen. Okay, now what I am going to do here also, I am just copying this one home screen. Home screen. Fine. Now what we can do, we can have a text to identify the screen. We can just remove this background color and we can just add a text. Here what we are going to do, here we are just adding a text. Fine. Then we can just import the text here as well. And I'm just giving a style for this text. Font size, we can just give a 13 and a color of black. So we can easily identify the screen. This is login screen. Same thing we can do with the home screen, register screen as well. You can just remove this view and fine. Here we can just add the login screen. It will be a register screen, right? Now we can just import text here. Fine. Also we can just add this in home screen as well. We can just add the view here, home screen. Fine. Also we need to import the text in home screen as well. We can just import the home screen. So we have completed all our screen. Now what we need to connect this old screen, right? For that one, what we need React navigation. So what I am going to do, I am going to install React navigation. We can just go here, React navigation. Okay, now what I am going to do, I am going to install my React navigation. Here it will be our React navigation. We can just go to the installation, just add this library and add React native. Then we need this two library for screen safe area context, or you can just skip this as well, I don't care. And we can just add this on my main activity. So we can just go here inside app src main java main activity.js. We can just add this on create override method. Also we need to import the bundle. Fine. Now the next thing is we need to add the stack navigator. We can just go to hello React navigation. We can just go to the stack navigation section. Yes, this one. So we can just add this library as well. We can just remove all the yarn add so that all the library will install simultaneously. We can just remove this yarn add, and also we can just remove this yarn add. Now just enter. So this will install all our library whatever we need for React navigation. We can just check out. Yes, now what we need to install the application once more, because we have installed native library and we have changed native codes, right? So we need to install the application once more. Yes, the application is installing. We can just go here. Yes, fine. So it will take a few moments to create the application. Meanwhile, we can just go into our src folder. We can just have one more folder here. Inside src, we can just have a navigation. Okay, so inside navigation, what we are going to do, we are going to create one file index.js. You can just have index.js. So here we have a login screen, right? So here we have a login screen, and we have a home, we have a register screen. Fine. And also we have a home screen. So these two screen will access before authentication, right? This is all related to authentication. So we can, what we can do, we can just wrap into these two screen into auth stack. We can just wrap this all into this two screen into auth stack, and home screen is only available after authentication, right? After token is available, after the login successful. So we can just wrap this as home stack. Okay, so we have two stack. One is auth stack. Auth stack include login screen and register screen, and then we have another stack, home stack, and then we have home screen. So we have defined our screens into separate stack, auth stack and home stack. Auth stack, inside auth stack there will be two screen which is related to all our authentication system, login screen, register screen, forgot password. We can just have forgot password as well if we needed, right? So this all screen will be authentication stack which we can access before our login. Now home stack only can access before. This will be a protected one, right? So we can just have a protected screens. This will be public screen. Clear? So home stack will be protected with the token. If we have only token, we can access the home screen. Now what we need to create these two stack, right? So we can just check out our documentation. Here you can see the stack creation method. We can just copy this one here. Fine. Now what I'm going to do, I'm just add the navigation container as well. Here what I'm going to do, just add the navigation container. Fine. Clear? Now what we need to create two stack, right? So how we can create a two stack? We can just call this one. Here what we can do, we can just have, just name is at auth stack. So inside auth stack, what we need to two screen, right? So we can just create this two stack. You can just have this stack const. We can just name this as auth stack container. Okay, so this one will be auth stack container. We can just make this as an arrow function. We can remove this container, or else you can, what we can do, we can just add in the same stack. But I am going to do separate stack as well. We can just have stack navigator. Inside this one stack, we can just create one login, and we can use login screen, Also we can just add one more stack screen inside the stack navigator. We can just have register screen. So we can just add register. So we have created this stack, right? Auth stack. This is the auth stack container function, and it creates two stack using the stack dot navigator. It should be auth stack, not stack, auth stack, auth stack, auth stack, right? So we have created two stack here. One is auth stack container. Now what I am going to do here, what I am going to do, just add one more stack container, home stack. So home stack container only will contain home stack container. Now here it will be, just create one more stack here, home stack. Okay, so inside this one, what I am going to do here, home stack dot navigator, home stack dot navigator, home stack dot navigator. We can just remove this one, and also we can just name this as home. So inside this one, we have home screen. So we have created auth stack navigator, auth stack container, home stack container. Right now we need to club this into stack container. So we can just create const navigation, main navigator. We can just say main navigator. Here we can do a arrow function. So inside this one, what I am going to do here, I am going to create one more thing, const main stack. So main stack will have two stack. One is this one. So we can just open this as a navigation container, and we can just add this in the auth stack. We can just have a return function here. Now I am going to club these two navigator into a main navigator. Okay, we have an authentication stack navigator. So what I am going to do, I am going to club this all two into main stack. Clear? So inside main stack there are auth stack and home stack. So inside auth stack there will be login screen, register screen, and auth stack will be public, right? So we can just have this here, public, and this will be protected. Clear? So what I am going to do, I am going to club this two stack in main stack. So what I need is, we can just copy this one, stack navigator, or we can just copy this one, main navigator dot navigator. Here inside what I am going to do, I am just going to add two screen. So we can just add main stack dot screen. We can just have name, auth, and the component will be auth stack navigator. Fine, then close this one. And also we need home stack, right? So we need to combine this one. So we can just copy this one as home screen, or this we can just change into home screen. Okay, now what we need, we have home here, and this should be home stack container. So we have created all our navigator whatever need. So we can just export this one, export default navigator. Fine. Now what I need, so we can just also we can just have the navigation container here. So we can just have navigation container. So navigation container only will be used one time. It should be on the parent component, parent navigator, right? Here we have used navigation container. Now what I am going to do here, this I am going to import in my app.js file. Meanwhile, we can remove all the code by default generated by React Native. We can just remove this one. We can just remove this one. Also, we can just remove this one. Fine. Now what we need, we can just remove this old code. Also this one also we can remove. We don't want this one. Make this as a functional component, simple functional component. Here we can just add a view. Remove this old styling. Here what we can do, we can just add our navigator. Now rest of all the code we can just remove, right? Also we don't want this style sheet. We can just remove. Only app will have a view and the navigator. Now we can just run. Yes, we can just run the code. So we are facing one issue, navigator. So we have to import the navigator. Import navigator from src navigation, right? So we can just import this one. Now if I just refresh, let's see what's happening. So we are facing an issue, or what we have do, we have just go to the navigator. We can just have main navigator. This can have initial, or we can just check out what the error is coming. App.js file. So still screen is not visible because we didn't give the flex to style. So we can just have flex equal to 1. Now if I refresh, see, the screens are visible, screen is rendered properly, but there is a problem. There are a lot of headers are coming, right? Now what for that one, what we have to do, go to the index file for the navigator here. So inside this main navigator, what we can do, so this navigator we don't want header, right? So we can just have screens option, and there will be one header shown property, header shown, we can just make into false. Okay, now if I refresh, you can see this authenticator, the main navigator will not have the header right now, right? Also we don't want the header for the login screen and register screen, right? So it should be a plain login screen and register screen. For that one, what we have to do, inside this auth stack navigator, we can have also the screen option header shown false. We can just refresh. Let's see here, only login screen is coming. We can just make this into the sender, align item, sender, justify content, sender. Okay, now if I just refresh, login screen text should be on the sender. Now what we need the button, right? So we can just go into the button documentation of React Native, button React Native. Okay, just click here. You can see the button. What I'm going to do, I'm just copying this button to here. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, I'm going to paste this button. After this, also we can just remove this accessibility level, and this we can make this as register. Okay, and we can make a method here on register press. So you can just make this as a function. Okay, and refer this function to here. Also we can just have a margin bottom to the text, so that button will show separately. Also we can just have one more button before register. We can just make this as on login press. Okay, so we can just make this as on login press. Here what I'm going to do, I'm going to pass the parameter and then login. Now if I refresh, let's see what's happened. I can see two button here. We can just make this button into horizontal, right? We can just make this view style flex direction. We can make it row, so the buttons will be in the same row. Yes. Now let's see what's happened. Here you can see login button and register button. We can also have a separation between this one. For now, what I'm going to do, I'm just having a view width 14 application setup, right? Now the next thing is we need to set up our React Native Firebase. For that one, what you have to do, go to the Firebase console. So inside Firebase console, we can just go to here firebase.com. Yes, go to the console. Here you can see different project. Now what we need to do, we can just go create a project, sample auth. Okay, so sample auth we have created. Just going to create this project. Continue. No, I don't want to select an account, just default account for Firebase. Create the project. So this will create a sample auth project in our Firebase console. So meanwhile, we can just check out our package name. We can just go into the Android app src main Android main fetch file. So this is our package name. Just copy this package name. Go to the continue. So this is created a project, right? Now what we need to create an app. So I click on the Android. Here just paste our package name. Fine. So we can just register our application. Go to the next. We can continue to the console. So we have continued. So this is our project. So inside project setting, but we can go to the integration, big data, everything is there. We can just go build. Yes, click on the authentication section. Here you can see different method. Get started. Now what we are going to do, we are going to provide email password authentication, right? We can just click on email password authentication, just click enable, save. Right, so we have enabled our authentication. So go to the settings. Yes, everything is fine, but the next thing is what we need to download our Google service file. So go to here you can see google service.js file. Just download this one. Now go to our project, open our project. So we can just open this project in our finder. Just go to the project. Here you can see the finder and just download just inside this app. We can just open our new finder. Go to the downloads. Here you can see the service file. Just copy the service file into app folder. So we have copied our service file into app folder. Now the next thing is we need to install the library. So for that one we can just have React Native Firebase. So go to the Firebase. Here you can see different setup. So this is the setup which I have shown you: installation, Android setup, generating service file. Here you can see service file we are already created. Then the next thing is what we need to install this library, right? So we can just copy this one, install this library. Okay, so it will create our Android file. Now what we have already created our service Google service file, right? We have added inside app folder. The next thing is Firebase Android credential. We can just copy this thing into Android build.gradle. So we can just go into Android build.gradle, and here I'm just going to paste this one. Okay, the next thing is we need to add these two lines inside Android app build.gradle. So we can just go here, Android app build.gradle. Here you can see my Android app plugin is there. Just downside we can just add this file. So iOS setup we can just do in the next lecture. We are just keeping an iOS setup. So we have added iOS setup. Now the next thing is hotel linking. We can just run the project for now. So we have completely added our React Native Firebase library to our project. So the next thing is we need authentication one, right? So we can just go here. We can just add this built successfully, right? So we have completed our Firebase integration. So what the next thing is, we need to just check whether Firebase is installed correctly. Go to the app.js file. We can just import our authentication module. So we can just check whether it's installed properly. We can just check this one. Import auth into our and just console auth. So all the methods should be available here. So we can just console this one, open the debugger, reload the function, and we can just connect it to the debugger. Here is the debugger is connected. Here you can see Firebase is connected properly. Fine. The next thing is what we need. We can just set up our Redux store using the Redux Tool Kit, right? So for that one, what we can do, just go to the documentation Redux Tool Kit, getting started. Here we can just install the library for Redux Toolkit. So you can just install yarn add Redux Toolkit. Also we need React Redux for provider. So just install these two libraries. Okay, so it will install our library. Now what we need, we can just set up our store here. So go to the app.js file. Now the next thing is, we can just go to the src. Here navigation is there, and we can just create one more folder, store. So inside this one I am going to create my Redux Persist tool, right? So for that one, what I need to install one more library, Redux Persist. Okay, just Redux Persist. You can just check out the documentation. Here you can see Redux Persist. We can just install the library yarn add Redux Persist. So we can just install the Redux Persist library. Fine. So now basic usage, we can just check out the documentation. Here you can see creating the store, Redux store, everything you can see. Now before that one, we can just go into the Redux Persist toolkit example. So persist tool. So this we can just check out. The first thing is we have installed the library. The second thing is we need to create our store, right? So we can just create import configure store from Redux Toolkit. The next thing is we need to import our reducer. We can just create our export store, or we can just persist, anything we can do, right? So we can just create our symbol store right now. We can just create our symbol store. Here I am just passing an empty object. So dev tool we have not enabled on production, so we can just import our store into app.js file. So import store from src store. Okay, now what we need to connect the store, right? So for that one we need to have a provider. So we can just have a provider from React Redux. So inside this provider, what we are going to do, we are going to provide our we can just provide our store. So we can just have the store here. Now just paste it here. Fine, right? So we have created our store. We can just console the store, what the value is coming, console store. Okay, so we can just console our store here. Then if I just go into my Redux here, we can just reload my function. Yes, store is coming, but value is undefined. We have to make this in bracket. So we can just make this in bracket. Now let's see what's happening. Again, reload the function once more. Reload the app once more. Yes, make this app is running. Right here you can see. So our store is created. Now we just go to store get state. Store get state, right? So we can just check out what is on check state. So there is an error is coming. We have not passed any proper reducer because we have just passed an empty reducer here, right? So we can just pass an empty reducer. We can just check what get state is coming getting. Here you can see get state is an empty object what we have passed here, right? So what we have done, we have created a store. Now the next thing is we can just create a reducer folder here. reducer folder. Inside this one, what I'm going to do, I'm just create auth reducer .js. So here what I'm going to do, I'm just pasting any Redux toolkit example for now, because we are going to the details, right? So we can just paste any Redux toolkit example. We can just paste Redux toolkit example. So here you can see a get started a Redux toolkit example. We can just copy this reducer. Here you can see using the slice here, right? So we can just copy this slice first, and then what we are going to do, we are going to create our initial state. We can just initial state, we can remove this TypeScript because this project does not contain TypeScript. We can just have type counter, and then what we need to create a auth slicer, right? So we can just create export we can just have const auth slider, right? Const auth slicer using the method create slice, right? So here what I am going to do, I am just passing this as an empty object, and the name I am giving as auth. Okay, then here what I am going to do, I am just passing the initial state and the reducer. We can just pass initial state, and the reducers we can just pass an empty object. Now what I need to export this one, right? So export default auth slicer dot reducer. We can just pass, or we can just export our reducer here. Now the initial value we can just have auth false. We can just remove auth false. Authenticated, whether we can just authenticated true or just auth is fine for now. Now what I need to import this reducer into my store. Here we can just go here, import auth reducer from reducer. We can just make this here, and we can just connect with our store, right? So we can just add an auth reducer here. Now if I just refresh, so this error should not come that we have not a valid reducer. The error is gone, and then we have the reducer. So we have successfully created our reducer and store, right? Then the next thing is we need to add a Redux Persist and Redux Logger. Firstly, what we can do, we can just create our Redux Logger, so that we can check each action whatever is adding on the logger. Because for that one, what you can do, Redux Logger. So if you are using Redux debugger, we can just check out here. I'm just adding this library for our reference. If you are using Redux Toolkit, this does not need it, because all the action will come here, right? So what we can do, Redux Logger, you can just install this Redux Logger and just check out how to add this middleware Redux Logger into our TypeScript. So we can just check Redux Logger to toolkit. So here you can see configure store. There will be one method, get middleware, right? So we can just go into that one. Here you can see import the logger. Import the logger here. Also what we need the middleware method. So we can just copy this middleware, paste it. So middleware will give a callback get default middleware. So it has a function to concat our all middleware, right? So we are concating our logger. Now the next thing is we can just check what is coming on console. Yes, as we have not dispatched any action, nothing will come here. So we can just go into our auth reducer. We can just create an action here. So for that one, we can just go into the older Redux Toolkit example. Here is the example. Here what I am going to do, I am just adding this action. Perfect. So what it doing, it will increment the value to 1, or we can just authenticate. We can just have a method authenticate. So on authenticate, what I am going to do, I am just making this as true. So we can just check this action is working properly. Here I need to export this one, export const auth authenticator from auth.slicer.actions. Okay, now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to dispatch this into, I'm going to import this into login screen. Here I'm just importing login screen, import auth authenticator from we can just say auth navigator, or we can just say reducer. Yes, auth reducer. Now what I need to try to dispatch this action, right? For that one, what I need dispatch hook. So we just check use dispatch hook, right? We can just check use dispatch. So just copy this one, hook. You can just check use dispatch hook. Here it will come. We can just check use dispatch from React Redux. Yes, just copy this here. So we have already installed React Redux. Now we can just use dispatch. Then we can just create a dispatch here. And what I'm going to do, I'm just calling this hook. Now the on press button, on the login on press button, on the login button, what I'm going to do, I'm going to call this action which we have created, right? So we can just call this action. Now let's see what's happened. We can just open the debugger, reload the function once more. Just click login. Here you can see it's created an action, and inside action the auth value said true. Initial auth value was false. After dispatching the auth authenticated action, here the action is coming, right? So here the action is coming from our reducer, this action auth reducer auth slash authenticate, right? After authenticating, what will happen? This auth value change it into true. So we have successfully completed our old Redux setup. The next thing is we need to add our persister.